Welcome to the podcast of disaster. I'm your host, JCR1216, and joining me are my co-hosts.
Girls?
And first with the cartoon.
Today we'll be doing something that I can't do. Ride. We're going to talk about riders today. It's the 20th anniversary. This game is older than me, as is most Sonic games. I was born in December of 2006. So, yeah, it's really funny to think about that this game is older than me. What about you guys? Are you older than this game?
I am older than this game.
I'm the exact age, so.
So, how old were you when this game came out?
Yeah.
I'm gonna do the math here.
I think Riders honestly the most unique concept for a racing game
It is.
that we probably never want to get again.
Yeah. And we're going to be talking about that and more once Floof figures out how to do basic subtraction.
Shut up. I was 10 months old when Riders came out.
Ah.
And the extreme gear concept is something that has resonated with me for a while. So it's very funny. My first introduction to Riders was Zero Gravity. So that was really nice.
Yeah. But today we're talking about
I think mostly everyone though.
Today we're going to be talking about the original. As known, Riders was developed to celebrate the 15th anniversary and was the first major Sonic racing game since Sonic R. This game introduced us to Jet the Hawk Tua, Wave, and memes never die. They just get cycled in my head, Floof. And Storm the Albatross. The birds. So, what are your guys' thoughts before we get more into the game details? What are your guys' thoughts on them as characters?
Honestly, I do like them. I like the Battle on the Roads. Right, their introduction to the series was very, very well placed. Having having treasure hunting thieves was a pretty cool idea for antagonists for a racing game. At least for the time. Right, I'm not saying it's cool now. I'm not saying it's cool now, but it was for the time. It was pretty neat. Pretty wacky. But overall, I do like how I think Jet. Honestly, this is in terms of racing, it's Sonic's perfect rival in terms of racing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think Jet is probably the most underrated out of Sonic's rivals. Probably him hearing me say that will probably make him go on an ego trip saying that he is the perfect Sonic rival. But Jet in general to me, I feel like does get kind of overlooked. It was nice to see him get some more clarity with, being in Crossworlds and all of that, but for a while Jet's only appearances were in the Riders games. And I think was he even in the Olympics
games? It was also sub games too.
Was he in the Olympics?
Games.
the idea of
after Riders, he started to appear in more side games, more party games.
Nice. The idea of Waluigi and Jet interacting does make me chuckle.
Yeah.
The game is interesting when you think about it. Floof, you talked about the extreme gears, and how much they made you resonate with them. Why would you say that?
Well, as much as a futuristic concept as hoverboards has been tried and true and used before, it's more of the fact that, the Sonic series only had so few racing games on old means of video games. And so having one in the current generation at the time was pretty big. It could have, because everyone's always wanting to see a competition between Sonic and Mario, which is better at one thing than the other. But Riders, it had a coolness factor, especially with people associating Riders, especially the original Riders, with the Y2K sensation during life. And on top of the intro, the animated intro of the game, and just the vibes of the racing scene, the UI, which I know a lot of people really liked, the point system, the air system, there is a lot of layers to why people like Riders. And on top of that, the different means of your own play style. So the extreme gear not just being a hoverboard, it's also a hover skate, or an air shoe if you're that kind of person. It's a bike as well that you can ride. It's a motorcycle. It could be what you want to choose. And that's mainly like the big thing I like about the extreme gears, because they're so diverse in what kind of rider you are specifically. There's always some people who favor the skates. There's always some people who favor the boards. There's always some people who favor the bikes, and also the other feature typings that get introduced in other games. Um, the extreme gear are diverse, and there is a variety. That's why I like them so much. It could be tough to look through all of them, especially if you think one is cooler than the other. But then you also have to factor in their stats and like how you play the game. And the best part about a lot of the extreme gear is that there's always going to be something for you. And if there isn't, well, there's always other games.
True.
Yeah. And that's something that I really liked, because at the time, before we got like the Sonic Racings, this was kind of like Sonic's take on a racing game, and I thought that was like really unique, because it gave it something that a lot of racing games didn't have, and that was differentiation of everything. Because every other franchise had kart racers like Mario Kart, but this felt something that was truly authentically Sonic.
Yeah.
It's unique for Sonic specifically, because Mario had already done the kart racing scene. So of course, it's why people better associate people better associate the kart racing scene with Mario than Sonic, even though the drift games that come out, or people will associate just like a typical like um running trackathon. Is that how to say, for like Sonic R and such, where you're just racing as just Sonic on the ground. But like, yeah, with the extreme gear, it gives something for Sonic that is just him. And like, it's different enough to not often associate in comparison to Mario. Unfortunately, the current generation unfortunately the current generation can't escape from that, but that's neither here nor there. It's just nice that um Sonic Riders outlived its original release, and it wasn't just dead on arrival. I mean, sure, game sales could say that. People who didn't like the gameplay at the time could say that, but it's like, it's no surprise that a concept like this has managed to like cement itself within the fandom. Whether it's the Babylon Rogues or the Extreme Gear races or everything that comes after that, it's just nice to see everyone like unanimously welcome thinking about Sonic Riders. Um, and while as the games go on, like the series in general, as it goes on, it kind of loses a bit of the coolness factor that it's often associated with, uh, especially in games where it looks no different than any other modern Sonic game. Um, it's nice to know that people still fondly think of it. I can't really say the same for one game in particular, but I'm gonna be weird. I like all three, no matter what.
So you're saying that you have zero gravity when it comes to your bias?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
I tried
You
to.
tried.
I tried. Yeah.
You did try.
Not every one of my zings are gonna work. But yeah. I think that's enough talking about before about the game, and let's talk about what's in the game, the plot, the character, the plot. Yeah. We have two major
Well,
storylines.
the plot is fairly simple. It's
I mean,
I'm
for a
sorry,
racing game,
I'm
yeah,
sorry. I
simple
say
as you
it's
can get.
simple, yet I'm laughing to myself about this sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So Sonic Riders is about Eggman starting up a competition, um, uh, which is all a ruse in order for those participating in the Grand Prix to bring him the Chaos Emeralds. Because with the Chaos Emeralds, they'll be able to interact with something called the Key to Babylon Garden, which is an artifact which is in possession of the Babylon Rogues. And Eggman knowingly puts it's mainly just Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, and then the new characters of the Babylon Rogues, Jet, Wave, and Storm, up to the Grand Prix, because he'll know that with the Chaos Emeralds close in proximity to the key, then it'll unearth Babylon Garden, which is the an ancient floating island which was once home to the Babylon Rogues' ancestors, the Babylonians. And it's basically just a course by course storyline where the characters are battling out to win the Grand Prix, with the characters meeting each other for the first time. Amy gets involved as well. And yeah, it's a pretty simple story. Mostly, to introduce the Babylon Rogues. Um, it's also to introduce, another civilization that once resided on Earth, and well, Eggman shenanigans. He wants a treasure or an artifact or a power source, then he's gonna get it however well he's gonna get it. Um, I will say though, is that I really do kind of wish I was like on the internet at the time um of
The game's release.
writers coming out, just because I really want. In case some people don't know, um, a lot of fans would probably know this by now is that the Sonic Riders games are a spin-off. They're not part of the mainline games, but they are important enough to introduce new characters and new history of Sonic's world. But there was a time and it was very much at the time of the 2000s and early 2010s, I believe, where the fandom had collectively agree. And I don't really blame people. We don't have as much of the um lore centric media like Tales Tube or the Chaotic Space Files or anything like that to like cement a lot of this stuff as part of like one world. Um, but I really wanted to know is like where it is like people collectively agreed that Riders was an alternate universe from the Sonic games, and I guess that does kind of make sense when you take in a lot of the environments from Riders, since a lot of them are more futuristic in comparison. Um, but then you have games like Heroes, which has Grand Metropolis with flying cars. So I don't know. I guess some people were just being quirky at the time. When are we not, right?
Yeah, we're Sonic fans. We're gonna be
Mhm.
quirky with a little bit of
But
swag.
it's still interesting to think about it. Like the fact that um the fandom didn't really consider the riders, the extreme gears, like just those environments and just the Babylon Rogues in general to be part of like the main game world, like not in the same world as Shadow the Hedgehog or Sonic Heroes or the Sonic Advance games or anything like that. No, it's more of the fact is like, oh, this is an alternate universe where Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, and it's now I'm thinking about it, it's like I guess you kind of make some sort of sense about it with like Knuckles isn't on Angel Island. Like why would he really be here? But then you start living in the 2020s and realize like, oh, Knuckles is just here to be here. The
Yeah.
era is what I wish to look back on. And I didn't hop on the internet until the late 2010s. So, you know,
Yeah,
just interesting times all around.
yeah, because it would be weird if you had internet access at 10 months old.
I can't. Yeah, all my keyboard spam would have been hilarious tweets at the time.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. It is interesting to just like think about because I did for a little research for this episode. Yes, the podcast of disaster does do research, believe it or not. I did actually go back and look at some old forums from back then. And people apparently were mixed on the game.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, reviews for the game were like heavily mixed on release.
Yeah.
And that mainly has to do with the gameplay, which we talked about earlier, which the gameplay of the game, for like any newcomer, was pretty difficult to get into. So like because like we was all used to just standard kart races, during the time. Like
Yeah.
okay, for like Mario Kart or I don't know, some random license game, you know.
Crash
So with
crash
riders
race.
having uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh yeah, crash racing.
Oh, did you think when I said
But
crash that
like
the recording crashed?
yeah, no, okay. Yeah, that was what I thought. But what I was trying to say is like so like when this game came in with a more with a different gameplay style, we have make sure your air is up. Make sure you gotta do these tricks perfect them. Do all this. Shake the controller. Not shake the controller, but rotate the stick. All that stuff. People like was not like this is like the same thing with Kirby Air Riders. All right, this was the same thing, right? Kirby Air had the same problem where it was complex for people who wants to play more car racers that they just didn't want to because it was like this game was too complex for what it was. And with Zero Gravity, that got when we got like a few years later, it was more simple for people since it was on the Wii from PS2. Um, yeah, I think honestly, with Crossroads, it's like the perfect balance between casual and competitive gameplay styles. Well, not casual competitive play, more like pro. At least in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, like and just like talking about the game in general, it was, as Floof said, it was super nice to have lore get put into this, and it was nice to have like another like species, because I do believe the Babylon Rogues are like the first non-flicky birds in the series up to this point. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they're the first, unless I've gone insane. Yeah, they should have been the first. Yeah. So it was nice seeing another species introduced, because I believe that they were the last different species introduced in the in games until I think ID. No. I'm trying to.
Games.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, like, because I know that
They
they were.
like just media in general. They're not the last ones.
Yeah. Yeah, because I know that they were the first time that we had a new species in Sonic in a hot minute. I know that for a fact.
Okay, game wise, for the time, yes, no, but like in media, absolutely not. They were not the last ones.
Yeah, they were not the last ones, but like in the games, they were the first one in a hot minute, but probably not the last. Yeah, but yeah, like as Floof said earlier, though, like the anime, that opening cutscene was really cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and as
like,
oh, my bad.
I said like seeing that and realizing that was animated by the same people who did Attack on Titan. That was well. Like I kind of wish we got more 2D anime openings from our Sonic games. I mean, no, I won't say close to Sonic Superstars, but no.
Yeah, I think
I do hope, like,
this
the next game.
Yeah, I think
actually, no. Yeah, no. I'm wrong. Dream Team had 2D opening.
Yeah, I think
That's the last one.
Yeah, I believe that was the last one to have a 2D opening. I believe that this game in particularly started people's craving for another 2D Sonic series, because yeah, we've had some 3D ones, but I feel like the people yearn for 2D animation. I know I definitely yearn for 2D animation. I love 2D animation. Yeah. They introduced 3 different racing types: speed, flight, and power. So once again, we have the 3-team dynamic like we had in Heroes, where it's like, oh, you have your speed, your flying guy, and then you have your power guys. And I do think that was a nice way to keep it like nice and simple. Floof,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on it being in the group of 3s?
Well, it's building off of what was established mostly in Sonic Heroes. A lot of the elements are, of course, a lot of long-standing elements from the series are being brought over into this new game. But it's like, a lot of people have always liked. Well, a majority of the fandom has always liked the teams of 3 in Sonic, and again, it's all about the play style too. When not only do you have people who prefer characters in certain extreme gear because that's how you play, but also like the racetracks have incentives for people who choose specific typings. Whether you are a speed type character, a fly type character, or a power type character, you have different abilities in order to go through the course how you want to, whether you know it or not. So being able to smash parts of the map to get to certain shortcuts as Knuckles, or being able to fly through um, rings that propel you faster across the track in the air with Tails, or just simply having a higher speed turnout as Sonic, and also like a few, like just a few stat changes and such. It's nice to have the diversity in the vehicle and in the character, I guess you could say. And apart from that, no, I'm not really that opinionated on this sort of stuff. I just like it.
Yeah. I will say that the levels in this game are really nice. They look really cool. And that's something that I feel like a lot of racing games didn't really have back then. Of course, Mario Kart had some nice looking levels, but I do believe that this one, yeah, there's some revisited locations, but I do love how amazing it looks, especially for at its time in the early 2000s. Well, mid 2000s. This is 2006 we're talking about. Yeah. There's different ranking systems. Oh, my bad.
I think like the layout for like the levels, like, they were pretty good. How everything was structured, how the shortcuts were structured, how like you can like use the spring pads to go on like you say shortcuts, or you use like the rings, go through the air. I feel like that was pretty fun. I mean, some of them could be better, but overall, it was solid. Like most of them were, yeah, all of them like were pretty good. Some of them, like I said, some of them could be better. Better.
Yeah. There were different ranks. There was C rank, B rank, A rank, double A rank, S rank, double S rank, and I think that's a K. But yeah,
I don't think it was okay.
it looks like a K. I can't screenshot it and take a look at it, but you know.
Let's talk about X.
Ah, that's an X. Oh, my bad. But yeah, again, like this game is really simple and nice, and I do wish that they did a little bit more with this concept. To maybe like as we know as we go along, and talk about this series, you know, there are different things that get put into it, like how we had other characters and other levels, and eventually motion controls. Oh, motion controls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sonic Riders is kind of down in the water, especially since Sonic has kind of switched over to a little bit more of a traditional kart racer. And that was kind of sad to see, but I fully understand why they switched over.
Yeah.
Because at that point, especially
third game.
Yeah, especially after free was it Free Riders or Zero Gravity? I always get those two.
It was Free Riders.
Yeah, Free Riders.
Zero Gravity was fun.
Yeah. It was just interesting. It's just interesting and like sad to see something that was like super creative eventually like go down the path that it did. Especially since since the Babylon Rogues are a bunch of fan favorite characters. Everyone that I have talked to mostly loves Jet, Wave, and Storm for particular reasons or unparticular reasons, and some of those people love Wave a little bit too much. But yeah, it's really just fun to look back at this series and understand why people are so nostalgic for it. You know, the only game that was positively received well was Zero Gravity, which came out in 2008. And
That's when I played.
Yeah. It was really cool to just have a game like this be done really well. I think people love the story of Riders a lot more than they do of the other Riders games.
An implementation of brand new extreme gear typings, more characters to play as, an improvement in the stats, new level tracks. It was a step up for Riders, and you'll also get more insight to the world of Sonic and the Babylon Rogues as characters, and also the amusing rivalries between all the characters, which started out in the first one, and also like improved voice acting at the time because the 4Kids actors were getting better with each game release.
Yeah.
True.
I think this was actually the last time we had the full ensemble of the 4Kids cast, I believe.
Riders game, yeah.
Yeah. It was really awesome just to like hear them all, and as said, like the character dynamics, I still find it hilarious to this day that Storm is afraid of Amy.
Those ones were still funny. It was like, yeah.
Yeah, and I like the fact that they introduced
out the fact that it is just amusing. It's like Storm loses all composure when around Amy, and it's nice to see that is still intact to this day. At the very least.
To be fair, Amy Riders Amy scares a lot of people because of just how like fun she is in those games, like scary fun, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's so nice just to like talk about the outfits that were introduced in this game. There were outfits, I believe, in the first game, but everyone knows about the Riders outfits.
Yeah.
Signature. Sometimes people would, it's often commonly accepted by the fandom that the characters should honestly just wear the Riders outfits as their default designs. Like they are just that widely fan appreciated that like Sonic should always have shades and like all of these accessories and like Blaze in the racing suit, Silver having some really cool really cool attire attached to him now, and the fact that in the first Riders is that Shadow's air shoes were literally just
air shoes. When you mentioned that, I remember a Pocket Scripts comic when we went a couple years ago where where a shadow barges in on Tangle and says they're air shoes. That was really like funny.
Oh yes, I do remember that actually.
I think honestly, I'm gonna be on the side that they shouldn't have them as a default because, like, for me at least, right? When I see riders, right, I think of those outfits. I think specifically of those. So I think they shouldn't do that, right? Because it would just kind of just loses. It kind of just like if they did, right, it would kind of just be overused at this point. And people would be like, okay, let's probably not do it.
Overuse and Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah,
I've never heard of it.
I know, right? I'm saying, but people will probably at some point will be like, hey, it's time to do something else. Let's do something else.
Yeah. Yeah, the writer.
I'm not saying this in a bad way.
Keep going.
So I'm not saying this in a bad way at all. But yeah, I think honestly they should just stay like in writers outside of Crossroads because I do want to see them in Crossroads. So like yeah, so like it was just like so like okay no yeah no when I see songwriters right like when I think of songwriters I think of those outfits right and those outfits specifically for that series. When I think of song games I think that's see them as people like
Yeah.
people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I do agree with all of that. I love how amazing that this was seen. This was a 360 exclusive. Apparently, no, I think I'm. Don't quote me on that.
No, it was on 360.
Oh, so this was on the Wii. I think no. I think we're thinking of Free Riders.
No,
Yeah.
that's fake.
Oh.
No, Free Riders.
Yeah.
Only on 360. That Wii.
Yeah, I'm talking about Zero Gravity. I meant to say Zero Gravity.
Yeah, Zero Gravity was on Wii. Yes.
Yeah, the storyline for Zero Gravity was about the arc of the cosmos, and like that kind of follows up with like the magic carpet that we had in the original Riders. I like the fact there's a lot more like fairy tale elements in these Riders games with like the MacGuffin for each game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's really, really, really cute.
And it is a shame that they don't really have that in Free Riders. Like, I guess like the big thing is that there was always something like to the story of the Sonic Riders games. Like, yeah, you'd have Eggman with the Grand Prix in order to unlock Babylon Garden. You had Eggman developing meteor tech in order to hunt down the Ark of the Cosmos. There was always something involving Eggman and the central artifact of that game. Whereas Free Riders, it's just it's just Sonic Riders 1 again, Eggman hosting a World Grand Prix, but but again, like I said earlier, it's like more in line with like usual modern Sonic games, where it was Eggman taking everyone's race data and putting it into an E10,000, which he didn't even know was Metal Sonic. And it's like there wasn't really much to go off of for Riders. It was just a World Grand Prix without the big plot line that involves the Babylonians or anything. But it's just one of those cases with Sonic where it's gameplay first, story later.
True.
Not like that's a bad thing. It isn't usually a bad thing. It's just it just happens.
Yeah. Zero Gravity, as we've talked, as known is words, is nice, and yeah, I guess we have to talk about the big elephant in the room, and that was the final game in the trilogy. We've talked about it a little bit, but let's just fully decompress Free Riders. My God, the game had a banger soundtrack, but I believe this was also the first game where we had the new cast as well.
Yes, before Sonic Colors, this was technically the introduction to Roger Craig Smith, Kate Higgins, Travis William, and the whole lot of the Studiopolis cast, which are still currently doing Sonic the Hedgehog 16 years later.
Yeah. The only one that didn't get replaced was He Who Shall Not Be Named, but Free Riders was an Xbox 360 exclusive. I actually picked up the game recently at my local GameStop for like $5.
Wow.
What a deal. The idea of a Connect Free Riders game does sound amazing on paper, but that's the keyword, paper, which is also what probably held together this game.
Yeah, you let it happen for real, and well, we got the results that we got.
Yeah.
thankfully, I do know that some people have modded the game to where you don't have to have the Connect system involved, and well, it just feels like it's Sonic Free Riders without the gimmick that it was based off of. So it's just a standard racing game.
And I also think that was the first.
Yeah.
I think that was the first non Mario and Sonic Sonic game to be exclusive to another console that wasn't a Nintendo console after Sega stopped making consoles, which is really funny and interesting to think about. But yeah, there was a lot of problems with this game. It was nice to see characters get into the game that weren't in there originally, but as we all know, it doesn't matter if you added a goofy type. The game was kind of cooked.
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty much just Riders down to its bare bones. You got rid of 2/3 of extreme gear typings. Um, the characters are now taking in their usual modern Sonic models. The racetracks, the racetracks are fine, but it's like, you know, not as memorable as ones from Riders or Zero Gravity, but they're okay. People do remember some of them. Um, and yeah, of course, the music, like you can't go wrong with a Sonic soundtrack. It's just, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Ugh.
I never got the chance to play Free Riders, but obviously I do know what the game is, how people reacted to playing the game. Which was not good, by the way. I did wish the game did have like if you didn't want to play the Connect, with just Connect, you was able to play with this. If you want, you could just play with the controller. I kind of wish that was a thing for it officially before we got the mod support. Like the game for me at least, I think the game had potential, like a new songwriting game with HD graphics, all this new stuff, like and mostly like if it was on Wii, I remember bringing this back. I remember talking about this, right? If this was on Wii, it could probably done way better, right, than it was. And like the Connect in general was like not good, all right, like in general, not just because
I grew up with the Kinect.
like that's yeah.
I
did too.
remember that Adventurers
Mhm.
game where you had to like jump and like throw your head around was really cool.
Yeah, but like most of the sensitivity of Connect wasn't all that compared to the Wii. So I kind of knew in a way that this game wasn't going to be it. But yeah, I feel like the voice acting. I feel like the voice acting for and obviously it was all so new, right? I feel like it was good. For me at least, it was pretty good. But like for me, I didn't know they changed the voice cast until like years later. So I found out, like, oh, so this is not. Oh, this is different.
Yeah, I think a lot of people like because it has the same problem that the Pokemon anime had when they switched over from 4Kids voice acting, which was the new cast tried to sound a little bit too much like the old cast. But I understand why. It was probably just like the scene in the new changes. Introducing a new voice cast to anything can be a struggle and a pain, especially with 4Kids imploding on itself in the late 2000s.
Yeah.
Mm. But yeah, this was the final Free Riders game before we had Sonic go over to regular kart racing, starting with Sega All Stars Racing. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
No, didn't All Stars come out first before Free Riders?
I can't remember. But this was the final nail in the coffin for the Riders franchise. Which is unfortunate, but I'm glad that they've kept it somewhat alive, and that brings us to the ending of this trilogy of talking about the Sonic Riders, and that is the aftermath. Sonic, yeah. When people think about the Riders games, the biggest thing that we think about are the characters. The fact that we had Jet, Wave, and Storm. Having them stick around. I remember in the Archie comics they were responsible for that one line where Sonic calls them all turkeys, and you better hope to God that you can outrun me or something like that during Archie, which was really fun and cool. The fact that they were kind of taken on as fun characters afterwards, after Riders, was really nice. And yeah, I love the fact that they kept those characters in the future spinoffs. Now, Jet has been name dropped in games recently. Frontiers is a good example of him getting talked about in games, and it was really refreshing to see Jet reappear in Crossworlds. And that leads me to the final point: is Crossworlds bringing back the Extreme Gears? I think everyone was really excited.
That was a good move.
Yeah, I think that was a really fun move. I don't personally main them myself, but I know many people that main them. Floof, do you main them?
Maybe in Storm for a time.
Really?
I played. Yeah.
Yes.
I play a lot of Extreme Gear.
Yeah.
So and like I also like people pointed out like that is a pretty that Extreme Gear, Crossroads is pretty much the bikes of this game. Like they feel exactly how bikes feel, but most, like mainly like the more sports bikes, specifically. Has like tighter turns, better like different executions on how you do certain things. Yeah, I get that a lot when I'm playing with a bike in Mario Kart. So I think I feel like going forward they should do more. They should just like bring the Extreme Gear more. If they don't want to do a Riders game, they could do this. They could just add Extreme Gear as an option in future racing games. But honestly, I'll be good with that. I'll be totally fine with that.
Yeah. I do believe that Riders had a lot of great concepts that helped make games like Crossworlds a lot better, and I am thankful that the Riders games exist, even though that at best they were just okay to just good. They gave us a lot of great moments, and they gave us the leeway to help make the best Sonic racing game. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah. I agree.
And with that, we'll be riding off into the sunset for this episode of the Podcast of Disaster. As always, be good to yourselves, others, and mothers, and we will see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Hey.